The regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington. It is Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, and it is 7 p.m. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
President Richardson.
Here.
Trustee Burke.
Here.
Trustee Hayes. Trustee Perkins.
Here.
Trustee Schaller.
Here.
Trustee Thompson.
Here.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Here.
Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You guys remember how hard it was to do that Pledge of Allegiance over Zoom? Oh my God, again?
Yeah.
It was a 5-second echo between various voices. Kind of like Gary Cooper in the movie about Joe DiMaggio. I consider. Okay. Agenda item 4 tonight is the approval of the minutes. 4A is the approval of the minutes from the Special Committee of the Whole of the Board of Trustees from October 12th. And 4B is the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting that same evening. Are there questions, edits, comments, or any changes proposed by any trustee for purposes of the clerk making amendments? There being none, Chair would like a motion to approve and block agenda items 4A and B, minutes of the Special Committee of the Whole and minutes of the Board of Trustees, both dated October 12th, 2021. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Second, Trustee Burke, seconded by Trustee Thompson. Thank you both. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Abstain since I was not at the committee of the whole meeting.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, thank you. Chair would like unanimous consent that the record remain open for the purposes of any necessary technical and conforming amendments for the period of 5 days without objection, so ordered. Agenda item 5, President's remarks. I'll turn this over to the administrator, actually, to introduce Kimberly Saunders.
Perfect. I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly Saunders, the Executive Director of BACOG, and she's going to give us an update on what they've been up to.
Hello. First, I just want to thank you all very much for letting me come and join you tonight. We wanted to take the opportunity that BACOG has gone through a remarkable amount of changes in the last, what month are we in? 11 months. And so I wanted to give you an update and also introduce myself, because I'm one of the changes.
Introduce that handsome young man and that nice young woman in the other room.
I do. So I have 2 helpers with me tonight. Brendan over here is my youngest, who's a kindergartner over at North Barrington. And then sitting in the president's chair in your conference room is my daughter, who is turning 9 tomorrow. So actually a 3rd grader over at North Barrington.
Well, she just raised the IQ average of the chair considerably.
She is intent on a book and very
can tell.
and keeping it quiet. So, but I wanted to give you sort of a recap about what's been happening. There was an opportunity with BACOG as they did some long-range planning with Janet Agnoletti's retirement of very, very deliberate and very strategic considerations about what the organization should look like as she retired and what they wanted, if there were changes, if there was renewed focus, if there were opportunities for efficiencies that you can do when somebody is retiring and you bring on new folks. And that's what they did. I mean, months of strategic planning about how to make that happen. And so I came in with pretty clear directive from the board about the importance of BACOG providing a strong value to its members. And being as efficient as possible. So some of that is just practical in terms of we tightened the hours of everybody who's working for BACOG. And focusing a very focused work program. So clear priorities in terms of BACOG and you all over the years have made significant investments in the Water Resources Initiative. You have an incredible dedication to cooperation on a region-wide basis and look at how to keep the value of that investment over the years and how to leverage the strength of the cooperative attitude that exists in this community and make BACOG and the Barrington area as strong as possible. So we have do a quick introduction of new staff, because we did almost an entirely wholesale new staff. Janet retired, and the treasurer, who had been serving the board on a volunteer basis for a number of years, also retired. So Natalia Tuturka has come on as a new treasurer. I think she beat me to the job by a couple of weeks. So she came on first, and then I started in January, and I come from a background of a number of years working in Illinois state government, working for the governor's office, and then also doing government relations for the Chicago Transit Authority before I decided to go to law school. And then spent about 12, 13 years as a regulatory attorney. So I spent a lot of time I lived in Washington, D.C. for 10 years. So doing regulatory as largely in securities. So I stepped away from local government a little bit, but now I am truly back in the area that makes me excited, or I am passionate issues about where the government actually meets its neighbors, right? Where you know what's happening on your street, and this is where the rubber meets the road. And then we also brought on the program coordinator, Jen Schick, who had been a wonderful asset to BayCog, moved to a full-time position in last fall. And so we hired a new program coordinator in April, Mary Turkey, who lives in Barrington, has kids going through 220 and background in nonprofit management and working with boards, and has dived right in. I think she came on board about 2 weeks before our residential water event and picked it up and ran with it, and she is a fabulous addition. You call BayCog, you'll probably get married. And then we still have our GIS analyst, Tomasz Shuka. I will say his name wrong. So sorry, Tomasz. But he continues to work 1 day a week for BayCog and is available as a resource as well to the individual members for GIS planning projects. And does all of the mapping services and a lot of the work with the stream gauges and other well monitoring that goes on. And then our latest benefit is that we still have Janet. So the board decided in July to offer a contract to Janet to manage the Water Resources Initiative. So in a very streamlined, siloed project, she continues to manage the operations of that project, and we get to keep the incredible wealth of expertise and institutional knowledge, which is a great benefit to me. So the key of BayCog going forward is that we are looking to sort of harness the power of regional cooperation, whether that's on legislative issues, whether that's on proposed developments that we want to happen within the area, proposed developments that come up that we are concerned about the regional impact, that we work together to make our position stronger. And that is fostered by an ongoing continual cooperation and communication efforts, whether it's among elected officials or across staff. And then also pursuing sort of regional opportunities. So an example, a couple months after I came on board, there was word that there would be congressional community-based projects, and BayCog members came together and identified a project that has the potential to benefit all of the students who go through 220, looking at a pedestrian underpass on Main Street. And it is, we'll see what happens with legislation, but it was selected by our congressman and identified and included as one of his 10 priority projects that is, at least in the current iteration of the bill, and we'll see what happens. But there is potential there for harnessing sort of the power of cooperativeness. So that being said, BayCog we will ensure that BayCog continues to invest and maintain the value of the money that everybody has invested in the Water Resources Initiative. So there is an incredible wealth of information that is being gathered on a regular basis about what's happening with the groundwater supply and its quality, on which our entire region is dependent, right? We're not, only very small pieces of the BayCog region are accessing Lake Michigan water, and it is not a readily feasible option. Whether desirable or not is up for debate, but it is not readily available to the rest of us. Right? We don't have a sewer system running everywhere to the Barrington area. We're incredibly private well dependent, and we have a shallow aquifer that you all need to know what's happening with it. Is there enough water in it? What's the quality of the water? And so that will continue on a number, as we go forward. We will continue the level 1 residential water testing program where they can come locally and drop off water supplies and know what's happening in their individual backyards. We've developed the well water quality network, which is an established annual, more in-depth testing of water quality spread across the region that we work with the state lab to get more in-depth information about the quality of the water. We're also doing annual water level testing that happens every summer. That happens, we actually enlist 61 communities, so we broaden outside BayCog to get a bigger picture of the aquifer. And then we do that all at once and harness the power of USGS, as well as the state lab and state water survey, and get them donating their services to help pull those measurements, along with a lot of well water operators around. So we'll continue to do that, so you're informed about what's happening in your communities and how to handle development. And the other things we will focus on going forward is that I think BayCog needs to be a resource, a touch point for what's happening in the region. So as we build stronger relationships with county officials, county staff, with state highway department, and with our state legislators, that we are not only coming to them when we need things from them, but we are available as an access point for them to gather input from you all, so that your voice is readily accessible to them, and we are helpful. But we're also familiar to them, so when the key issues pop up that are of importance to us, we're not a stranger asking for a favor. We are a member of a community and a partner with these folks. So we will continue on a regular basis to do additional reach out on the staff level, both county and state, and federal, if that evolves, and to be, demonstrating and gathering information and being helpful to them and reaching out. And also, for us, call us if there are things happening in your communities that you need regional assistance on. And the other one is that we will be looking at our membership. That it is, as you all know, there are a couple of BayCog members who decided to leave during 2020, and that has an immediate impact for you all just on a budgetary line item, right? We are almost entirely member assessment based, and so as our membership shrinks, that's a bigger pressure on you. And it also, raises questions about how cohesive and how comprehensive our regional position is. So we are paying attention to that issue, and we'll be very focused on it. Not only on those folks who chose to leave, to understand why they felt the need to leave, and whether or not sort of the shrinking of budgets, the BayCog's financial obligations, whether that changes the picture for them, but also if there are particular areas where we can address their needs and bring them back into the fold. And we will look at our neighbors and folks who have historically been BayCog members during the last 50 years, and whether or not there's a re-entry point or a new entry point for those members. So we'll be staying busy, but we're around. So welcome. I'm happy to answer any questions, but also, we are around and available at the room corner. So, there are things we can do for us. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Kimberly. It is our custom here to recognize trustees in order so that they can ask questions or make comments. I'll begin on my right with Trustee Perkins.
Thank you. Actually, we just had a meeting last week that I attended. Kimberly's amazing. She's so intuitive to everything that's going on with the communities, and she just puts forth a lot of really great information. Questions for you. If we were to add to the members, what communities, probably North Barrington, correct?
Yes.
What other communities would we like, Wakanda or?
So I think the first considerations are obviously North Barrington and Cuba Township. And particularly Cuba Township, given the extensive amount of unincorporated areas there are. And then I think also a question of Inverness, who was in BayCog for a number of years, but has not been for a long time. And that for me is a big question, is why aren't they? And they fit the character, the profile of the BayCog community, and geographically fit very well. So I think that's the starting point. And then I think it's a question probably come to the board with you all, to the executive board on is, what does the expansion look like next? Where is the trade-off between the tight, solid, really open conversations that happen at the board meetings and at our administrators' roundtables, and when do we get too big so you lose that sort of tight-knit BayCog, Barrington quality to it? But is it Fox River Grove? Is it Port Barrington? Is it where do you head to sort of push the edges, but keep it very Barrington, you know, in Barrington.
So it's those three are kind
So
of.
the first three targets
targets.
are North Barrington, Cuba Township, and Inverness.
And what can we do to help with this?
Well, if you know their elected officials, tell them how wonderful we are. But and I'd say that not really in jest, but if you do know them or have opportunities to reach out to them to emphasize what the benefits that you all see from BayCog, of why it is worthwhile for Lake Barrington to be invested in BayCog, I think that is helpful. I am doing the reach out to them, but I obviously come with a bias, right? But I think that would be the most helpful thing you could do.
Great, okay, thank you.
Trustee Shelman.
Thank you, President Richardson. Were there particular reasons why those two former members decided not to be part of BayCog?
So it predates me, so I don't know all of the details. I understand there were financial pressures, were key issues, and that member assessments were a challenge, particularly in.
I can help you on this.
Okay.
We may be the only community that's never withdrawn membership. Several have gone off for a year or two and then come back. The reasons are multiple. Some are financial, as Kimberly suggests, others for other reasons. But I think we're the only one who's never, maybe the township of Barrington too. And the village of Barrington was going to go on it several years ago around the time of the EJ&E rail. For financial reasons. I think we cut them a very aggressive deal to keep them in at the time. This is why what Peggy and Karen and formerly Debbie do, so we have the ability, because we run such a well-disciplined financial structure, where we can afford to do this. And I see this very clearly. BayCog's a critical regional voice for us in a state where our demographic doesn't necessarily hold sway. We have some approach, especially in areas of green space and the environment, but it's not one. So any of the state associations, John, if their members are conflicted, they have to stay out there. I understand that, that's what we want. So in cases where certain associations that would represent us are conflicted out, Barrington, BayCog is a very important thing. I mean, I view it this way: for the local regional stuff and for the best foot forward, you're an excellent value for money for us. We also retain contract lobbyists in Springfield, because no association, yourself included, can pick between your members.
Yes.
And so they make sure that our interests are specifically addressed, while you take care of interests that affect all of us, our neighbors and ourselves. And then I'm active at the national level. The village pays my dues to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, but I feel I can travel to it. And that's because I can learn a lot from other mayors. In fact, Lisa took a message today. The new mayor of Spokane, Washington, called, and following up on a conversation we had about water at the recent mayor's meeting in Minneapolis. So I see a lot of opportunity. It is ultimately something that I feel people come around to after they've left for a while. And some of it, John, can be just a personality at a given time.
I don't know, I see the value though in regional cooperation, and therefore I think it's important that we obviously do whatever we can to get everyone in this area back or involved in it. So I appreciate that.
Inverness was a member on and off. When we moved here 25 years ago, I think they were a member. Jim, do you remember?
Good work.
And I don't know Jack Tatulis real well, but we've both been in office, if you ask our critics, way too long. And I don't mind calling them for you. I don't know the new supervisor of Cuba Township, and I certainly don't have any problem calling Eleanor Sweet McDonald next door in North Barrington. So I find great value in it. So, I'm sorry, I yield my own back.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate it. One of the things that I got involved with BayCog was their tabletop exercises that related to public safety, and I'm wondering, that has not taken place in quite some time, whether or not there are any plans to readdress some of those exercises moving forward.
Yes. So it is on our question list for 2022. Part of it is we were hoping the pandemic would subside a little bit and facilitating getting a lot of people in the same room. But a question for you all is topics that are most helpful.
Yeah.
Is public safety to return to that most beneficial? Are there others that you would like to see? Because yes, we would like to return to getting some of the tabletop exercises back.
Yeah, I meant the ones that were done in the past, all oriented around what if something of that nature should happen, and how would we react to it? And we're in the process of readdressing our emergency operations plan that Administrator Dalton Lang and I are involved in and attending a session in January up in Libertyville. But I think it is important for the region to address such things. However, that said, if there are other tabletop exercises unrelated to public safety that could benefit the region as a whole, I think that's something that likewise should be addressed. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Trustee Burke.
Welcome, nice to meet you. Thanks for being here tonight. I have a particular interest
Can you
in...
talk in your microphone, please?
Oh, sorry. I have a particular interest in all the water work that you guys have been doing. And if I heard you correctly, you dragged Janet back out of retirement to do some
Yes.
work with you. Just elaborate a little bit more about what she's actually going to be doing.
Yes, so one of the opportune timing aspects of Janet's retirement is that she had developed the water program into a position where it was through most of its development phases and into where it can be an ongoing operation that is much less time intensive. So she is responsible for operation of the water quality well network, always flip the name around.
Yeah.
Water quality well network, which is the level 2 testing that encompasses 25 wells that are within the BayCog boundaries. And so she coordinates the testing and evaluation of those results. She also facilitates the annual water level testing, which is the 3 continuously monitored wells, the 5 stream gauges, and then 61 or 62 municipal run wells in the broader region. And so she facilitates all of that testing on a single day. And then compiling that and troubleshooting the results that come back from those and assessing those results. And then she is available as a resource for our Water Resources Committee. And one of the things we're looking at is sort of what the next objective is for the Water Resources Committee. I'm a firm believer of not meeting for the sake of meeting. So I had actually put the Water Resources Committee on pause over the summer as we brought Janet back, got that contract in place and had us more up and running. And then to figure out sort of what is the focus, what are we asking of those community members who are volunteering their time to, what guidance do we need from them? What expertise do we tap into? So that's next up and so she will serve as an advisor on that committee as well.
So 2 things from that, and thank you for that. One is there going to be a routine reporting, or is there already routine reporting that will be coming from her back to us in terms of water, of both the quality and the water depth and those kinds of things?
Yes. So yes and no. So on the water level, absolutely, we can get you the information on that. I will tell you we are troubleshooting on a couple of the wells. Some of the results came back a little funky. So we are going back to figure out what the issue is so you have reliable information and we can feed that back through to you. And then she has put together an interim report which she presented to the executive board last week. And what it is here is a package of the results and a snapshot. But with a huge caveat of water level information is really only valuable over a number of years. And so we are set up to do a 5-year analysis on water levels. And we contracted with the Illinois State Water Survey to do that analysis, and they delivered that report in January of this year, which covers the previous 5 years. So what we have is here's a summary of our data of this year relative, and a little quick snapshot back. But we don't broadly push it out because it is easy to read too much into the results, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to get that back to you all and get her like snapshot, like mini report of here's what we have, and get that back to you. We just don't really publicize it because it's hard to have it. This isn't a full, truthful analysis of the trending that's happening, particularly in a drought year.
Right, understood.
But yes,
I think
absolutely.
it would be helpful to have some type of, I would agree, pushing the report out is probably not very helpful. But I think having somebody come and report on some regular basis, annually, whatever we think the right number is, and just allow for some Q&A, so that, in other words, as you present the data, you can educate us on what are really the takeaways that we should be concerned about. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's been some time. I feel like we used to get those reports, or get someone to come and report on it, or Janet would report on it.
I think Janet, with her once a year update to the village
Right.
board, would talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be great to incorporate that in, on some annual basis. I don't think anything more than annual is required. And then the other part that we've talked about a lot, particularly when we talk about, it seems like every summer, we bring up the issue of lawn irrigation here.
Yes.
And, people with 1, 2, 3 acres who are irrigating, and some people are very irritated by that and think, why are we doing this? It's a big waste. And they don't care because they don't pay for the water, and the neighbor cares, but you don't care, and you're kind of stewed that the person is over there running their sprinklers all day, every day. And that's just one example.
Yes.
And there's an element of public education, I think, that needs to be a part of this, and I'm just wondering if public education is ultimately part of what you would include or think to include, and either supporting communities like ours to do public education for our residents, or more broadly do public education.
Yes, I think that's a very good point, and we have talked about it in terms of what is our most effective reach, right? There's a certain extent where BACOG's own communications can get out to a certain population, but maybe I think your suggestion about facilitating your community education efforts, are we providing information that can go into your newsletters on your information that's actually getting to your residents' hands? Maybe the most effective way to get information out.
Right. Yep. Very good. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, and welcome again from me, please. Terrific to see you here tonight. Thank you for coming. When you first began your presentation, you were talking about you have a long-term tactical strategic plan that you put together.
So what I was talking about is in the lead up to Janet's retirement, that Janet and her staff and the executive board undertook an evaluation of sort of the long-term picture of BACOG and what the work program priorities were. And that they took some very deliberate steps to sort of reevaluate the organization and figure out what made sense as they were transitioning leadership and how to transition the organization as well.
So
So I don't have a strategic plan I can hand you.
no, it's sort of part of the long-term plan.
Yes.
I was just wondering if the tactical aspects of that, so if you come across any areas, where you may need some help or assistance from the villages, we would certainly be able to volunteer to help you with that, whatever it may be.
Thank you.
And that's about all I had. I'm just looking forward to BACOG continuing this wonderful work for us, because as our president said, we truly value what BACOG does for us, and thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the support.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's great.
Microphone, Teresa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Kimberly, thank you so much for talking with us this evening. I really like what Trustee Berg was alluding to about the community education. I think we are launching and have launched some new tools to communicate with our residents, so we'd be happy to leverage those to help you. And I noticed the bullet in your presentation called increasing communication and cooperation. Can you give us some other examples?
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing, a couple of our immediate steps are we're doing a sort of an overhaul of the BACOG website. And what we've discovered as both Mary and I were new to the organization was that there's this incredible wealth of information on that website. And we're trying to go through and figure out how to make it more accessible, how to make it at your fingertips when if you need information about a new resident in the area and you need to know what to do with your septic system and your private well. That should be easy to find, right? I hear a lot that that's actually the first time I encountered BACOG was I bought a house with a septic and a well and I had no idea what to do with it. So I went to BACOG and got answers. But we'd like it to be readily available. So we're doing that, sort of looking through, is there good information about our community partners on there? Is there information about the private wells? Is there information about what the region is, what the fundamental principles that originally brought BACOG together and what makes the BACOG area unique? Is that easily accessible? So that's sort of one project that is taking a lot of time. And we're getting some excellent expertise by some very talented students at Barrington High School in their entrepreneurship program who are actually coming in and helping do a little training and education about how we pull it out. The other piece of it is looking at reaching members of the community who are social media based. So we have trying to build an Instagram and Facebook presence that provides information about what's happening at BACOG, an area for education pieces to go that would actually reach somebody, and then also tie into those channels that are already up and running at each of our members. So we can sort of build the web that gets that piece out. And so we're working on those pieces, and they are enough time consuming that that's as far as we are right now. So,
Great, thank you.
Further questions? Therese?
No.
I've got a few, Kimberly and I spoke yesterday, so some of this will be, you mentioned liaison with IDOT.
yes.
I'm taking my mask down for purposes of clarity. Route 22 will never be made 4 lanes as long as I draw breath and I sit in this chair. Never. Not maybe, not be thoughtful, not think about it later, never. And it goes fundamentally to our brand of an oasis of gracious countryside living. The traffic warrants have never justified it. And so when we fought this battle almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago for sure, they stopped the widening at Route 12 in Lake Zurich because Lake Zurich desperately needed a bypass around their downtown. And it was provided for, and it's helped both communities. We are clear about this. One of the things that makes this community unique, and Trustee Van Ryn is working on this for us in her new role with the board, is the countryside feeling and big heritage oaks that will never grow that size again, and even our grandchildren's lifetime are precious to us. So we get good cooperation with District 1, typically. That's part of the reason we have people in Springfield to help us. It's part of why we need you, and Janet helped us on these things. That's a very big deal here. So when we talk about transportation, we're probably one of the few communities that doesn't say, widen our roads. The other thing is, you may have mentioned that you didn't want to hold unnecessary meetings. Then why in the world did you go to work in local government? That's what we do. I've talked to Kimberly about, and I'll give my report now from committees. We'll have 2 members of Congress that are new, given the new map. Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, who will represent basically Lake Barrington north of Miller Road, and Congressman Mike Quigley, who will represent most of Lake Barrington south of Miller Road. Once the new year begins, and they'll win the primary, and those maps were drawn to elect Democrats, so they will win. We want to get the district directors, like we had with Congresswoman Underwood here last month, to tour the BACOG area, specifically Lake Barrington. One of the things that I'll try to send you, Kimberly, and if you ping me to remind me on Friday, we did an agreement with the Illinois Sierra Club, Cuba Township, and the Village of Wakanda about 15 or 20 years ago on the expansion of Wakanda's wastewater treatment plant and their MPDES permit. And we did a remarkable groundbreaking agreement, we gave the Sierra Club standing in the intergovernmental agreement to sue to enforce. We got significantly more concessions on water protection and water quality than the IEPA required. Significantly more. It's one of the things I'm most proud of in my years of service in this community. You've correctly identified water, as some of my colleagues have re-emphasized. Again, most of us are on well water, so it's really, really important to us. And I think we can reach out to Congressman Quigley. We're losing Congresswoman Underwood, who is an appropriations member, but Congressman Quigley is an appropriations member. And that helps now that earmarks are back. And Karen and I have been meeting with some folks recently, including former trustee Lauren DeJesu, about some environmental water issues in the community. I don't want to get ahead of myself right now, but we'll come back to you on those things. We're pretty easy to understand. So I'm dying to ask, I spent 20 years in DC, and I was on the Hill, and that's where I met my wife, and I was on K Street. So give me your pedigree. Where'd you work in DC?
I worked at Wilmer Hale
Oh, fabulous.
for 8 years, and then I followed the chairman of my practice area at Wilkie Farr and Gallagher for the last 3 years.
What brought you to Chicago?
So I went to Northwestern for undergrad. That's where I met my husband. And we originally planned to go to DC for 2 or 3 years. But this is where we wanted to raise our kids. And it's where we wanted to grow old.
Yeah, we made the same decision.
I love DC. I mean, we lived on the Hill.
Yeah.
I loved it. All my kids were born there.
My girls were both born in Georgetown Hospital.
Oh, awesome. Ours were born in Sibley, just up the hill. But this is where we wanted our kids to be rooted.
Well, we were luckier to get you than I realized. You really bring some firepower. That's wonderful to know. One of the things I always do is file for the record statements. And I do the typical geeky lawyer, 27 footnotes, 9 pages. Teresa sees some of this in our day job. So I want to kind of get involved in those things from time to time.
Yeah.
Because any document with footnotes, I think, is taken seriously. And you have the training to push those things out like crazy.
Yes.
So I'm guilty of mission creep, so if we begin to ask too much, you need to point that out.
I will tell you.
I'm very excited to meet you, and I appreciated our call yesterday, even more so now hearing you tonight.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I am really grateful to be in this job. This is a dream job for me, and I'm delighted. It's lovely to meet you all.
We want to see 2 years from now if you feel the same way. We're delighted. Yeah, Mrs. Hirsch, our treasurer, thought that too. Yeah, we cured her as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys, okay, I'm probably gonna head out. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Agenda item 6 is the first opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. I see no one here seeking recognition, so we can move to agenda item 7, the consent agenda. We're going to move a number of items in omnibus fashion that are listed here as permitted by Illinois law. 7A, zoning variation 27616 Bridgewater Court. B, special use ordinance 22272 North Pepper Road. I will yield to either council or the administrator for comment.
Okay, I'll start, and Jim can clean up if he likes. The zoning variation for 27616 Bridgewater Court. The Plan Commission heard the case a couple weeks ago. It's basically because of the position of where the lot is, and it had a 37-foot side yard setback, and it sits next to a huge wetland. And the new addition necessitated a driveway encroachment onto that setback area. So the Plan Commission recommended approval unanimously on the proposed variation for that.
May I ask a question now, or? So, if I'm clear on this, you're saying the setback or this driveway is encroaching upon a wetland?
No, just the opposite. So this, if you can envision a lot, the side yard setback for a driveway was 37 feet from the property line. Next, on the property line over the other side was a wetland, so it's not affecting any other homes, this driveway location. So instead of being 37 feet away, the encroachment of the driveway is about 14 feet, so that's about 20, still like 23 feet away from the property line. So because this yard is so huge and wide, our side yard setbacks are based on an average width of the lot.
Got it.
So some lots are a lot smaller than that. So
And then so is there no one on that,
there's nobody on the other side.
there's no one on the other side, so there's no one who could object,
Big detention.
right?
It's a huge, detention wetland area. And none of the residents objected to it.
And no one objected. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, plan commission.
Yep, thank you.
The special use ordinance for 22272 North Pepper Road. This is the location of the current Nature Select dog food on Pepper Road. And they have a retail component in the front, and they have a big warehouse in the back. Most of their sales are through their warehouse, so they looked to put up their retail portion for sale or lease. And this business, Sure Shot Laser, approached the village and the plan commission to have a laser gun range. And if you've ever gone to a golf driving range in the wintertime where you hit you bring your clubs and you hit a golf ball into a screen, this is much the same thing where there's lanes with a screen and a computer, and the computer can project different targets, different scenarios. You can play different games. They also talked about law enforcement using this because the laser guns that they use, one, are not able to be manipulated into a real gun that shoots bullets, but they're heavy and are set for the recoil for what kind of laser or what kind of gun it's emulating. So that they can do real target practice for that as well. So they're proposing to do that. It needed a special use because it's considered an entertainment business, and that's in our code that they would need a special use for that. The Plan Commission asked a lot of questions, and they went through and answered all their questions. Noise is just from a computer, so you can turn it down if it's too loud or whatever. And I think they thought they would have 4 or 6 lanes, if you will, of screens for shooting, and no, I'll say real bullets are allowed on the premises as well.
No movie set, no movie set.
A couple of questions. Do we know, is this Sure Shot, do they have other outlets? Or is this a unique?
This is their first.
This is their first thing, okay. Another question I have is, and this is a very different model than like Battle House, which is
Battle House, you run around and shoot
run
the laser
around,
guns.
you shoot each other with laser guns.
Right, and this you're like practicing on a screen, so it's much less space.
A lot less space and a different concept. We're going to be the laser capital of Chicago when this is over.
May I ask a question on that? Who's their target audience?
The target audience, the target audience, they said, is both law enforcement, perhaps companies trying to do, what do you call that?
Team building?
Yeah, team building, people just out for recreational purposes. Apparently shooting guns with real bullets is very expensive, plus environmentally unfriendly because lead or whatever's in bullets. So it's an affordable way for people to do target practice. It's an affordable way for people to, go out and have a good time and have a game, type of thing, with a real feeling type of gun. Thank you.
One more question. Is there any age limit to who can?
Yeah, that's in the ordinance. I think it was.
Is it in the ordinance?
I think it's 14,
Okay.
is it, Jim?
I don't think it's in the ordinance, but, and in fact, I don't remember them mentioning it.
They talked about like a public hearing. And it was like older than I thought. So I was thinking it might be little kids, but it wasn't. It was like 13 or 14, but I don't recall.
Yeah, the little kids can just stay home and do that on their TV,
Yeah.
That's really what,
Battle House.
that's what it resembles. It's really a video game.
Yeah.
But a big version of it, yeah.
It sounds like Battle House for adults.
Yeah,
They don't have, for old guys that don't want to run around.
yes.
Easy with that talk.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my husband.
We're talking about everybody's husband.
Yeah.
So there is no, you don't know, there is an age limit, but
Well, they would self-impose the age limit, it wasn't in the ordinance, and so. Yeah, Battle House, I know a friend of mine from McHenry comes with his 2 little ones that are in grade school. Because he was telling me last week, I was telling him that we might get this, and he said, oh, good, because the same thing. He's like, last time I went to Battle House, I was wore out, I couldn't keep up.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Further questions or comments by the administrator? Further questions? The chair would like a motion to approve agenda items 7A and 7B as stated in the recommended action of the consent agenda. May I have that motion, please?
Someone,
By trustee Perkins, second. May I please have a second by trustee Thompson? Thank you both. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Sure. Trustee Perkins,
yes.
trustee Thompson,
yes.
trustee Burke,
Yes.
trustee Schaller,
Yes.
trustee Van Ryn,
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes. Agenda item 8 this evening is the treasurer's report. Mrs. Hirsch.
Can we take this off?
Of course you may.
Once within 6 feet, please, the mic, okay? Thank you. So tonight we have the financial statements that have been reviewed and prepared for the 5 months ended September 30th, 2021. So we're just a little bit less than halfway through our fiscal year. Looking at the flash report on page 2, you can see that we have assets at $4,165,000. Our liabilities are at $1,613,000. And our equity is at $2,552,000. Going on down the page, we have total revenues of $1,847,000 and total expenses of $1,661,000, giving us a net income of $186,000. At this point last year, our net income was $518,000. We explain that a little bit below our bolded line. Once again, we pull out our extraordinary items. And you'll see that we are pulling out major road work of $479,000. This month, a large part of that was due to the Arrow Road program. The first pay request Arrow Road was $446,250, so a big portion of that is in this amount pulled out, or the whole portion of that is in this amount pulled out. And then also there's been some large expenditures for Featherland that we're pulling out, $130,805. When we pull those extraordinary expenses out, you'll see that our operations, our regular net income or loss from regular operations is $796,796. And that compared to this point last year, $527,000 was $528,000. So it's the same, sort of the same areas that are accounting for each month. We've talked about these items in the income statement that are pulling us ahead of budget. This month, sales revenue, sales tax came in strong again. To date, our municipal share of sales tax of almost $82,000 from last year. Combining that with our home rule added sales tax, our total sales tax of $176,000 from this point last year. Increases in sales tax are far greater than our declines in use tax, which I know I've talked about ad nauseum. I know it's hard to follow, but there should be almost a direct correlation of one going down, one going up. But our community has definitely benefited well from the leveling the playing field legislation that Illinois enacted January 1st. So we're getting a lot of money from Amazon, about $7,000 a month from online sales coming through our sales tax reports. So that's been very helpful to our bottom line. Just a little mention about, just kind of a little FYI, IML has come out with new estimates for LGDF. Last year, we used numbers that they put out in February to calculate our budget. Those numbers recently are now 19% higher than they originally gave us last February. So we know we're trending well above budget for income tax and should come in above budget. And that's just something that we're sort of the balance at the mercy of IML, who does our, kind of some of those early numbers for us and what the state's doing. I can't really explain to you why it's so much higher. I'd like to think that our income taxes our incomes are higher and higher income tax, but I'm not quite sure that's a direct correlation. Building permit revenues.
Quick question on the
Sure.
use versus the internet sales.
Mhm.
The We don't fully understand why there's a disparity. In other words, why it's not a 1-for-1, or we do understand.
I don't quite understand that. I think you actually came up with this a couple months ago, is our residents are spending money, like in the Lake Zurichs, taking the Best Buy, sales tax dollars and so forth away from those other communities. I think our residents spend more money online than maybe some other communities do, and it's coming back directly. So the large retailers have to remit those sales taxes back on destination-based, where the purchaser is, but it has to be a large retailer. So you'll see it's the Amazons, it's the eBays, Home Shopping Network.
Right, and use tax, is that something that's just distributed by population?
By population.
Oh, okay, so in other words, the working theory was that, as you say, maybe we are spending more than our fair share of internet dollars. A, we don't have the local retailers, or B, previously, retailers outside of Lake Barrington was where our money was going, and more that is going to online retailers, right?
Correct. That's, I think, what's happening. Yes, online. Right, so in the past, before this January 1st, if you bought something on Amazon, it came to the state in the form of use tax and was given out on a per capita basis. Now it's coming back to the destination of where the purchaser was actually located, which is a big difference than it was before. But it has to be a large retailer, so there's still use tax coming into the state. And use tax is also, if you have a local business, I'm not overly versed. I mean, if you go to the state sales tax laws, it's voluminous, and there's all these different categories. But there's use taxes for other reasons as well that get allocated back to municipalities based on a per capita.
How many months in a row have we seen this now?
So January 1st, it was the enactment, so that would start hitting our financial statements probably like in March. And I have been tracking these, and we've lost about $3,000 a month in use tax, but we've gained about $7,000 in sales tax.
So since March, we're netting,
Yes,
we're netting about a $4,000 a month difference.
Correct.
So.
I mean, don't quote me exactly on
No,
on
I'm
the
kind of,
month.
what I'm getting
Right.
actually is kind of like, how confident are we that trend would continue? I mean,
know.
has it been,
And I will say the
has it
pandemic-
been pretty consistent? Starting in March?
The pandemic caused a huge increase in use tax because we were all home buying online.
Right,
I think a lot of people are used to spending money that way.
right.
I never shopped on Amazon before. Now I'm on my phone and I've got something the next day in my house. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But I think we've changed our buying patterns too.
Got it.
In the holidays, I think will spike it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of doing the math and saying, can we really imagine that there could be a $48,000 retail tax windfall for us over
Right,
the course of the year?
I mean, it's been holding pretty strong ever since that was, if I look at the last 3 months in a row, it's from Amazon alone, it's been about $7,000 each month.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, and now the little ones kick in.
I sent you a note on this, but just out of curiosity, Amazon
Did you send it recently,
shows
or?
up twice on the report.
Did you send it recently? I don't know.
Oh, yes, like about 7 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
What have you been doing?
I left my phone at home, so I
Oh, there
haven't
you
been
go.
checking my email during the meeting, but, what was it? I'm sorry.
Amazon just shows up on 2 different lines.
Right, I couldn't tell you why.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it's where they're supposed to be, and there's 2 different ones, it's the same address.
Right.
They have a different SIC.
different SIC.
Yeah, so I mean,
Whatever.
I could look those, actually I could look those, oh no, they don't, they're the exact same SIC. They must have a different account number for some reason, but you're right, everything else is the same. But those those 2 together are second highest taxpayer, as you saw, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
great. Well, thanks for that report.
Sure.
Charlie. It's really,
Yeah, I think Speedway is, is chugging along, but, gasoline is up, I think 45% this time versus last year. So that probably is a big part of the increase in sales tax from Speedway. I don't think there's a lot more gas being purchased, but,
right. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Let's see where we're left.
Sorry.
No worries. Okay, so building permit revenue was strong again this month. We had 2 new homes in Tallgrass. And it's still up significantly from last year, of $131,000 from this point last year. Now, that's a declining revenue base. We all know we only have so many new homes to build in the community, so We're accelerating over our 5-year plan, so we'll keep an eye on that, but it certainly works well for the budgeting this year. And then on the expense side, as I've mentioned each month, the building plan review expense is up as an inspection expense is up, which you would expect with our revenues, being higher, but I do point that out. And our exterior maintenance for the building here is a little bit higher than budget. We had the brick repair and we had the window replacement. That's all in the budget, so that's going to iron out. That's a timing difference, but it is a little bit higher than usual, higher than last year at this point, but it's in the budget. So now we can move to the balance sheet. All the accounts have been reviewed, the bank statements and all those bank accounts have been reconciled. There is a new account on the balance sheet, and for you non-accountants, you probably are going to roll your eyes at me, but on page 3, so it's the balance sheet, the general fund balance sheet. Under current liabilities, so almost the bottom of the page, you'll see a large liability. It's called general fund, and it says due to ARPA fund. $330,888.21.
Excuse me, so the pages aren't numbered, yeah, so the third page in, or the third?
Page not numbered? Oh, gosh.
Well, they're numbered like they're printed, are you talking
Lots of
about?
different ways.
Yeah, are you talking about the printed number on the bottom of the pages?
The bottom
Yes, bottom right. Okay, so
Page
it's basically your third page of the packet. if
Okay,
that-
so it's.
So page 43.
I don't have those numbers.
Okay,
That's a good point. I don't know what your numbering is on your.
yeah, there's a little bit of discrepancy. So the general fund balance sheet, which is.
The balance sheet, general fund balance sheet, and that's the third page of the financial packet.
Yeah.
And I won't talk about this again probably, but I just want to point this out now. It's a new account. Right towards the bottom under current liabilities, it says general fund dash due to ARPA fund. So this is a new account on the general fund. It's $330,888.21. What that is that's the amount we received from the government. That's the first installment of the ARPA funds. It was deposited into the general fund bank account, but we've created a new fund. And it'll be more obvious as I go through under my report. So this money is actually due to the ARPA fund. The ARPA fund will not have a checking account that we can write checks from, so the money's going to sit here, but it's really the equity of the ARPA fund, and I'll show you when we get to that page. But I point that out.
I'm sorry, could you start that again? I'm trying
Sure.
to find that page.
So,
Is it 39? Okay.
Yeah, it's 39, page 1.
Okay, thank you. Okay, got it.
So it's the balance sheet for the general fund, and under liabilities, currently it's the very first current liability, and it's $330,888.21. Are you finding that, Trustee Thompson? Oh, okay, sorry, I was waiting for you. Okay, so that's actually due to the ARPA fund, but this money is in the general fund's bank account.
And the ARPA fund is what?
So the ARPA is this American Rescue Plan Act that we're getting $660,000 from the federal government, very specified uses, and a lot of reporting involved in very specified uses. We're going to set up our own fund for that. I'm sure for auditing and accounting purposes, it will be collapsed into the general fund, but for our internal purposes, so we can easily track the expenses and monitor it, we're creating its own fund.
And
It's basically just an accounting thing.
yeah, but for the expense part of it, it's
That will
is it
show up.
related to any COVID rescue?
Karen can probably
Yeah,
better.
so this is the fund that Trustee Hayes talked about last month that the federal government released in 2 tranches to.
600,000, yeah.
$665,000.
It's road work.
Half now, half next year. We have a few years to spend it. It's very limited to what we can spend it on. So I'm disappointed because I can't pave a street with it. But at the same time, Congress has actually, I think it just passed the Senate or the House, like to make changes in what we can spend it on. So we're we're gathering all the data that we can and evaluating it and then waiting to see what shakes out because we're not in any big rush to do it. But it's basically for COVID recovery. So certain economic development things could be used for it. And then they've got some other stuff in there that.
Waste drainage management, water drain management or something, or
Yeah.
broadband, some really odd.
Yeah, a lot of things don't apply to us because we don't have police or fire or a health department. So we're trying, and I think that was one of the reasons why Congress is looking at maybe some updates for the local, we're called a non-entitlement unit, for things that we could spend the money on. So we're still evaluating on that.
But we will figure out a way to spend it.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, you can be creative, but it requires a lot of reporting.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's
I'm going to spend
tight.
every penny.
We're not giving it back.
We'll give it back to the government. eh?
So as we spend that money, though, this liability will be spent down.
Okay.
It'll be obvious when we start doing it, but I just wanted to point it out since it is a new account. Okay, so let's flip forward to the budget, which for me is pages 10 and 11. I apologize, I don't know your page numbers. They used to, I think you used to have, didn't you? Because I would.
Yeah, it's just printed instead of circled, so.
Okay.
So page 11? Yeah.
My page 10 and 11 of the financial report, of the financial package. What page is that, Karen, for you?
Well, I just clicked on it, so I might.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's page 11.
Okay. Well, I'll start with my page 10 is the first page of the budget to actual and is the revenues. And about 3/4 of the way down, you'll see revenues are at 57% actual to budget. So we're trending ahead of budget. But we have some outliers that are pulling that up. One is real estate tax. We got a big tranche in this month in September. We'll get the remainder next month. So that's a tiny difference. You know, it's pulling those numbers up a little bit. Sales tax is up higher than budget. You know, we're at 60% actual to budget versus where we are in the year, which would be only 42%. And then building permits at 90% actual to budget. So I predict we'll end up over budget for building permits and sales tax, and you know, income tax as well. We're going to definitely be over budget there. And that's a good thing, that's revenue. And then on page 11, my page 11, we'll see our total expenditures are trending right at budget, 45% actual budget. We have some outliers that are, you know, it's mostly timing differences. One thing that we have not done yet is we've not spent all our Featherling money. We've spent $135,000 on Featherling, and the budget's $462. So once that's spent, that number of our expenses to actual will definitely, you know, go up closer to budget. All these I've mentioned in the, you know, going in the past few months. Little ones trending a little bit higher, but nothing is alarming or going to end up, you know, other than expected. But happy to answer any questions on the general fund.
I have just a question.
Sure.
I noticed donations is up just a little bit. Could you tell us how we donate?
Okay, so a couple of years ago, we had to come up with a policy, and there's certain organizations that we donate to. I'd have to go back to see who's on here for sure.
I think it's just PACE now for this last year.
Yeah, and we might have estimated PACE a little bit lower because that we get a bill for that. Is this just PACE this year, Karen? I honestly, I'd have to go back and I can get back to you on that. I'm going to guess the estimate was probably PACE, and then they send us a bill based on usage. But I will definitely get back to you on that. Any other questions on that? Okay, we can turn to my page 12. I apologize for this. We're just
What's
looking-
at the top, your page 12?
This is the motor fuel tax fund balance sheet. So I'm just going to point out that our, you know, we have total current assets in there, which is that's an accounting term. You take your total current assets less your current liabilities, that gives you your net current assets. And in there we have $528,000 approximately. And I mentioned each time that we have $218,493 must be spent on the Rebuild Illinois project. Once again, monies that are severely restricted as to how they can be used. So we are keeping track of that, not necessarily on the balance sheet, but we have some side reports for that as well. And no activity in that account this month except the monthly, you know, receipts of MFT and the TRF. There's no expected expenditures this month in the account either. So I just mentioned it to show you, how that's building up nicely for next year.
So the TRF revenue was up?
Sorry? The TRF, those are transportation renewal fund. Those are bonds that Illinois floated, for infrastructure. And it's given, we still have 2 more installments to receive of that, but it's severely restricted, not severely, but it's restricted as well, large projects and so forth. So I know Karen's very well there. But we're keeping track of those dollars because they need to be spent to live in MFT, slightly different than MFT. And then on page 16 is just the water sewer fund, that's the balance sheet there. We have net current assets in there of $1,755,000. No major improvements planned in that fund this year as well, it's growing nicely. We'd like to keep a nice balance in there for any unexpected or any large repairs that would be necessary in that fund, which obviously you can understand how that can happen. And then to our new fund, page 20, my page 20 and page 21, is the ARPA funds. This is just the other side of what you saw on the general fund. You'll see we have one asset, and that's to do from the general fund, and that's the matching number of $330,888.21. That just means, and so we have the equity in there to spend. And then on the next page is the income statement, so we just show the revenue this month of the money received from the government, and no expenses obviously against that, so we have net income in there of that amount. I won't talk about this again until we have something going through there, but I just wanted to point it out since it's new this month and let you know how much money we have. So it's a lot of money, right? So any questions there before I go to the warrants?
Questions for the treasurer?
Okay, we actually have 3 warrants tonight. We have warrant C, which you haven't seen in quite a while, but according to our personnel policy, our travel, what's it called? Travel, meals, and lodging reimbursement policy of section 3.6 of the employee manual. We need a separate roll call vote for any expenditures related to travel for village staff. So I'll get to that last, but that's just a little segue is why we have 3 warrants. So on warrant A, there's about 4 or 5 unusual invoices this month. The first one is Aero Road Construction, and that's the final pay request for the road program this year, $11,442.31. Corrective asphalt, and that's for reclamite sealant that's been applied to village roads, and that's for $12,562.16. There's a request for Cuba Township on warrant A, and that's for some culvert replacement, and that's $3,516.72. And then IML Risk Management Association, and that's our annual insurance bill. That's the non-employee health portion. That's our risk and our bonds, employee or workman's comp and so forth, and that's $27,596. That's down significantly from last year. A portion of that is just due to losing an employee or one employee less bonded, and our workman's comp went down. And then there's some, a little bit is down because of our liability coverage for some reason is a little less expensive than last year. Same coverages though, just one less employee needed to be insured. That's why that's down. And then the last one to mention on warrant A is water sewer fund, and that's Lake Julian Contracting, $2,000, and that was to excavate and replace/repair some valve boxes. Any more explanation on that? I'll have to talk to the village administrator on that one. Okay, and then warrant B, just have one to mention, another one for Cuba Township. That's for $1,941.72. And that is to remove/replace an adjusting ring under the storm grate. Once again, that would be a question for our village administrator if we have on that.
I'll just add to that, Cuba Township did a great job working with that business owner to coordinate the adjusting ring on the storm grate, because it was right in the middle of their driveway, of course. Yeah, so they had to work on hours when people could still get around it, so. That's it.
Okay, and then finally warrant C, you'll see there's a number of lines on here. So some items have already been expensed, some items are on this month's credit card, and some items the employee paid. And so this is a summary of all the expenses. The first employee is listed there, Karen Dalton Lang. She traveled to a conference in Oregon. Her total expenses for the trip were $2,359.07. And you can see there's just a few of those that have not been paid out yet. And then the second employee, Lisa Pena-Talapa, she traveled to a conference in Bloomington, Indiana, and her expenses totaled $1,030.28. There's 2 checks being requested off of this tonight for those 2 employees that come to $220.33. And I will mention that the entire credit card bill is on warrant B, so there's a little bit of an overlap. I mean, you're approving some expenses on here, but also warrant B. But this is more of a summary of the expenses that were incurred, and you just need a separate roll call vote. That's why you have all those split out separately.
I would just know it's Bloomington, Illinois,
Okay, what did I say?
Indiana.
Okay, sorry, that's where my daughter went to school.
That's understandable.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
A couple years ago. Okay, and that's all I have. So, yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for the treasurer? As always, clear and understandable, and I'm a good guinea pig on that.
Okay.
Okay, the chair would like a motion to approve in block agenda items 8A through D. A, approve the financial statements as of September 30, 2021. B, pay bills in the amount of $196,606.98 as listed on the accounts payable warrant A dated November 2, 2021. C, pay bills in the amount of $72,777.20 as listed on the accounts payable warrant B dated November 2, 2021. And D, pay bills in the amount of $220.33 as listed on the account payable warrant C dated November 2, 2021. May I have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
By trustee Schaller, thank you. Second. Who was the second?
Second.
Susie? By trustee Perkins, thank you both. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 8E, tax levy resolution. Mrs. Hirsch, would you like to lead off on this and then have the administrator jump in?
What do you want to do, Karen?
Either way.
Sure, I'll give it a start, yeah. Actually, Karen did a nice memo, which is in the packet, describing we have a strong financial position this year, chiefly due to income tax coming in higher than budgeted and sales tax doing much stronger than expected. For that reason, in a couple, I think also I'd like to add that we've got a lot of money from the state and from the government coming in, the federal government, for different projects. There's no need to raise the tax levy any higher than it's been in past years. Want to add anything to that?
Most excellent, I have nothing to add.
Well, I can't resist. For years, this board did not raise the levy, as you well know. When circumstances required, we made some adjustments. And they were to make sure that we had solid revenue streams to support garbage and recycling, road repair, and law enforcement. And that was why there was a small increase in the levy and the institution of the retail sales tax at retail sales tax, primarily Speedway, paid primarily by non-Lake Barrington residents. This is not an accident. We're in a position to do this now because we were very deliberate. You should take great pride on this. The administrator should, the entire board should, as should former trustee Rigby, who really was part of that as leading the finance administration committee here on the board. I really think that it's worthy to applaud the village for the discipline. Great results like great kids don't happen by accident. And we had a plan, and I want to make sure I say this in public. We had a plan. This wasn't by accident. It wasn't because of magic fairy dust saying, oh, Lake Barrington's nice, let's give them great results. It's because serious grown-ups put in serious effort. And we've now in a position to go back to freezing the levy again. Not many units of government can say we're freezing the levy. So I take immense pride. So forgive my braggadocio here, but I'm very, very proud.
And I'll just point out that the way the levy has been set up, we are levying $501,000 for waste disposal. That's actually the amount budgeted. And the remainder, $322,000 is being levied against police services.
And so people know what it's for, and they know how to get for the money.
And that's how it'll be used.
Are there questions of the treasurer beyond my harangue? The chair would like a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-R-15, a resolution for a 0% increase in the village tax levy of $823,000. May I have the motion, please?
Much gratitude, yes.
Okay, moved by trustee Scheller. May I please have a second?
Second.
By trustee Van Ryn, thank you both. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Schaller.
Thank you, yes.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 9, the administrator's report.
Sure, a quick update on the T-Mobile lease. They obtained their building permit, and they should have the equipment removed by the end of the week. They were given a few extra days past the October 31st initial deadline due to all the rain that we've been having. Dixon Engineering has been inspecting their work, and things are going along well. The other thing I'd like to report on is a couple months ago, we had a resident who came to the village board meeting and asked if it would be feasible if we had what's called a hybrid meeting. And what that means is we would have our meeting here and the ability for someone to call in and listen. The issue with that is our microphones are not tied in to a phone system. So if we just put up a phone to the microphones, they would get a lot of feedback and couldn't hear. The village clerk and I met with our phone provider recently and with a sound system person to see if there's an economical way to achieve this. It also does present some issues with managing the meeting, because at some point, if there's people who don't have to be here to say something, if we're meeting in person, then somebody has to be working a computer to allow them to speak or to mute them. So there's those issues, but the phone people and the sound system people are talking geek to each other right now, and once they get done talking their geek stuff, they're going to get back to us with a proposal for what it would take. So I just wanted to give you that update on that we haven't forgotten about that. And that's it.
Questions for the administrator? We can move to agenda item 10, the clerk's report.
I have a reminder that yard waste collection, the last day for that is November 24th. And a second reminder that no yard waste stickers are required for the month of November. In your board packets, there's a 2022 regular meeting schedule draft, so if you want to review that, because that will be approved at the December meeting, December 7th meeting, unless there are any changes that need to happen. That's it.
Further other questions for the clerk? Thank you very much. It is 8:17, and the only thing standing between us and adjournment are these committee reports. I point that data out to the trustees for whatever use they wish to make of that data. 11A, COVID-19 Response Task Force, Trustee Burke.
Geez, I thought you were just picking on me there for a minute, President.
Hanging out with me too.
Absolutely. I'm going to do COVID and I'll rush right into economic development if I'm allowed. All regions of Illinois remain in phase 5 of state's Restore Illinois plan. Overall in the state, test positivity rolling 7-day average is 2.3%. It's 1.9% for Lake County. ICU bed availability in Lake County, which is one of the key metrics that they watch, has steadily increased. We actually got below the 20% for a while there in September when Delta was spiking, which was threatening to move us back out of phase 5 into phase 4. But it's turned around, it bottomed out, and now we're above the 20%. We're about 25, 26%. And hospitalizations have steadily decreased. When we spoke in September, they were increasing. So we had two metrics that were going, we had all three metrics were going in the wrong way. Now all three metrics are back in the right direction. So that means the stabilization of these is that we don't appear to be in any danger of falling back to phase 4. On the vaccination side, 57% of all residents of Illinois are now fully vaccinated. They now track at different ages, so 86 at 65 plus. This is fully vaccinated. 72% of 18 plus and 71% of residents 12 plus. So 12 plus and 18 plus have made pretty strong gains here in the last several months. 69% of all Lake County residents are fully vaccinated. The national average is right around 58%. So Illinois is kind of at the national average, and Lake County's ahead of the national average. Also on the vaccination front, as of on October 31st, the rolling 7-day average for daily vaccinations was 60,000, which is up considerably from the 20,000 daily rate in mid-September. So you can see that there has been quite a push from a vaccination standpoint, probably being driven by three things. The approval of booster shots for those over 65 and being compromised, the approval of vaccinations for 12 plus, and many government and private industry mandates for employees like healthcare workers or even private sector for their employees, as we're seeing. As you are well aware, many of these mandates continue to be challenged in the courts, both private and government. And last but not least, Governor Pritzker continues to mandate the wearing of masks in all indoor public spaces. Any questions or comments on COVID-19?
Questions for Trustee Burke?
Then moving right along. Economic development. Delmonico's restaurant continues to prepare for its grand opening in mid-November. I spoke to John and Nick multiple times over the last 2 days, and they're finalizing things. So they completed most of the internal updates, the cleaning, the decorating, all the things that they need to do. They just passed all their inspections, and I believe as of today have received their business license from us, and the other information that they need to submit to the state to get their liquor license. And they submitted that to the state today via email. And as Mr. Bacon and I were chatting yesterday, we don't know how long it's going to take for them to get we don't know how long the state takes on any given liquor license issuance. But we're keeping fingers crossed because they'd like to be open in mid-November. They wouldn't even consider opening without the liquor license, just to get the food side of it down and start, a soft opening without it. So stay tuned on that, but they have everything from a building standpoint, a kitchen, everything else is ready to go. And really the liquor license is the last thing for them to be fully operational at this point. The custom awning that they're doing with their name on it has been approved. It is in construction and is going to be mounted probably right around Thanksgiving. And they said they would open with a temporary banner sign on the building until their awning can be installed. So that's excellent news. They are excited. They did reiterate with me that if they are successful, and they certainly expect to, they intend to start working on an outdoor patio that they said would be pretty elaborate, let's put it that way, which I think would be really exciting and really great. So I will keep people posted about what they're calling their soft opening, okay, and hopefully get all of us out there invited to show our support for these guys when they do the soft opening. I think they'd like to see many of us there.
Well,
And
I do have a question about that.
Yes, sir.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Would they possibly be considering having a super soft special opening for village staff and officials? After they have their liquor license?
I think the answer to that is that yes. I don't think it would be exclusively for us. I think that it would include us. But I will talk to them. They have alluded to that on multiple occasions, that they would welcome us to be there. So I'll talk to them more specifically, because I will tell them that there's a lot of interest from the board.
So I want to ask the village attorney, we're allowed, without a liquor license, they may not serve, and I understand that. Can people bring their own?
We have, I believe we require a separate special license.
Okay. And
To be white.
if someone had a designated driver with the wine out in the car, could go outside, have a few sips, and then go back in?
We have a police officer here.
Let's take,
Sorry.
yeah.
Just exploring all the options.
Well, I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm glad that you brought it up, because if indeed, let's say that they run into a timing issue with the issuance of, and they would want to do a BYOB, what would it take this board to grant that special license? Would we have to have a special meeting to do that?
I think so. I have to check that.
Okay, well, it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And because I want to make sure that, in fact, I will speak to them about that.
Excellent.
If they feel nervous about that, but want to go ahead and want to promote BYOB, then we need to get out in front of it and grant them the permission to do that. So I'll just make sure they're aware of that. So I'm glad we had the conversation. Thank you, President Richardson, for that.
Mr. President, I have you were asking about having vehicles and sipping in the vehicles?
Not while they're driving and not.
No. I just wanted to alert the board to the fact that we now have a third vehicle, an SUV, which has a very large back end.
That's right. I'm thinking of kind of like a
Tailgate.
like a tailgate. That's really what I got in mind.
Moving right along, the Marketplace's new owner, STG Group, has recently completed the repaving of the parking lot. It looks great. If you haven't seen it, really changes the complexion, does it not, Trustee Schaller?
Yes, it does. And they did it in 2 days. It's amazing. And they striped the whole parking lot right after that. Yeah, they did an excellent job in a short period of time.
Yeah. So they continue to put their money where their mouth is. They said they would do it. They've done it. That's great. They're working on landscaping plans and other things that we'll be reviewing probably in the spring. They're getting ready to welcome a new tenant, Athletico, the physical therapy people.
They're already there.
Well, they're there. Are they operating now?
Yes.
Yeah. When I say welcome, there was supposed to be a ribbon cutting ceremony next week, but it's been moved to January the 12th for whatever reason, but everyone is invited to the ribbon cutting ceremony. Then, on this coming Monday, I will be meeting with Andre Dobrowski, who is STG's acquisition manager, and Tony Lombardo, who is the property manager for the Marketplace, to discuss future plans for the Marketplace, as well as possible development opportunities for STG Group here in Lake Barrington. So we'll report on that next time around. Karen and I, we talked about having met with the Next Site people, who are the ones that help you identify retail opportunities and introduce you to possible developers. They gave us a proposal. It's a 3-year contract for $8,000 a year. We are going to hold off on that at this point. We can't commit to that. Those kind of funds, we are going to wait and create a plan and a budget for economic development, hopefully for next year, where that would also include economic provisions for matching sign grants, TIF, and other things that we want to do. So rather than push forward with that, we're going to remain opportunistic with our development planning for the village until next budget year. But you'll be hearing much more about that long before we are voting on the budget. And last but not least, you heard Treasurer Hirsch referring to the retail sales tax revenue analysis report that she did, and how we have this nice windfall from internet sales that we'll continue to monitor. We also talk about our restaurants and the restaurants that we were helping to prop up and support through COVID. And year over year, I'm happy that they're all showing revenue increases versus this time last year. And in fact, we have 3 restaurants that are right now in our top 12 retail sales tax. So that's really exciting, good for them and good for us. So please, soon we'll have a 4th. So please get out and support them all. They do a great job, and they need our support, and it seems like maybe they've weathered the worst. And I think we appreciate them that much more now than we did before all of this. And that concludes my report.
So Randy, this is clowning around. It looks like we will avoid another winter of no indoor dining.
It certainly does. With this latest spike seemingly here in Illinois being tamped down, I think we're going to continue, at worst case, to abide by the protocol that's in place now, which allows indoor dining. And unless something happens, I imagine that we're going to continue to have the same freedoms now through the winter. So knock on wood, which will be great for our restaurants to be able to continue to have full service throughout the winter months. Any other questions or comments on economic development?
Thank you for the hard work here, Randy.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
We're in capable hands. Agenda item 11B, branding and communications. Trustee Van Ryan.
We are pleased to announce that we have launched officially on LinkedIn. So we now have an active presence there, and we have 28 connections, which I think is wonderful. Thanks to Karen especially for reposting the post and reaching out. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your experience there?
Oh, sure. It's the first time I've ever posted anything on LinkedIn. I'm usually just like, it was a way back in the day with land development to keep track of my buddies who scattered, to
The young people call that trolling. Just so you know,
Yeah.
they tell us parents, we don't post anything, we
Yeah.
just look at stuff.
We just look at stuff, yeah. Every once in a while, I'll comment on somebody's, something or other, but, so I actually posted and, talked about our new village LinkedIn, LinkedIn site. And I think when I last looked at it, there was like several comments from people and about 48 likes or something like that. So I was quite impressed with my first posting. So I guess I'm no longer a troller.
Well, that's a great experience, and I encourage all of you that are on LinkedIn to do similar sharing, and I saw some of you commented, so thank you so much. We'll continue with weekly updates there and see how that audience grows. I think ultimately I'd love to come back to this group and share with you on a monthly basis what that growth is with some metrics and hopefully drive continued traffic to our website, sign-ups for e-news, Facebook.
Sorry.
No worries. And engagement of our homeowners associations as well. And I think that's the update for today. Thank you.
Questions for Trustee Van Ryan? Thank you again. I started using the new logo in my email. Trustee Thompson.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I think Trustee Van Ryan's done a wonderful job within the logo, and I'm looking forward to us being able to use that in a great manner to further market the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? I've already reported under my report, so we can move to 11E, Finance, HR, and Administration. I'm going to yield to the Administrator on behalf of Trustee Hayes.
Sure. Just briefly, Trustee Hayes and I, I think it was like last week, we did a facilities tour where we went through the Village Hall, also all of the other properties the village owns, which, we typically just think of Prior Farm and Featherman Park, but we also own property at the water plant. We own a large wetland area adjacent to Citizens for Conservation and Pepper and Kelsey. We own a residential lot off of Anderson Road. We own different parcels in the Gibbs property. And I'm sure I'm forgetting things off the top of my head. But we went through all of those, and we'll be looking at those in upcoming months to find out what long-term maintenance they may need so that we can prepare more of a 5-year plan, capital budget, and probably more maintenance and capital type of expenditures on those facilities to keep them up and running, or decide, if some of them we should, get rid of. For example, there might be the possibility of donating some of that corner to CFC. There might be a possibility of selling that lot off of Anderson. We don't know at this point. So it'll all be looked at as we go along. That's it.
Questions for the Administrator on behalf of Trustee Hayes? If not, 11F, Infrastructure and Open Spaces, Trustee Perkins.
Thank you, President Richardson. As we heard in the Treasurer's report, we've made the final payment to Arrow for the 2021 road program. Also, Karen and I will be taking our annual tour of roads to assess the conditions of some of our roads around the community, and also she's going to talk to me a little bit about the facilities tour that she and Trustee Hayes just did.
Please
So
take
that's,
a long, slow ride around the estates of Lake Barrington sometime.
Yeah.
Try to hit a few of the potholes that are developed.
okay, we'll do that,
Thank you.
we'll ride bicycles, we'll bring our bicycles out for that.
Yes.
Okay, so now this one, today the Park District had their folks out that do the holiday lighting. And Lisa talked to them and they gave her a bid for lights at Friar Farm. And we discussed, Lisa, Karen and I discussed a little bit, and we think it would be nice to spread some of our holiday cheer down Kelsey and do some lighting at the Friar Farm. It's going to be under $2,000, and we have this in the miscellaneous account. So we just kind of wanted to bring that up to the fellow trustees and see how everyone felt about that. Any objections?
I think it's wonderful.
Wonderful.
I think it looked great.
Is that something that we could recycle then year on year?
I believe they probably put it up and take it down.
Yeah,
And then
it's
just
rental
start.
lighting. It's the same company that the Park District uses. If you saw that last year at the playground. So they come out and put up the LED lights and then take them down. I think they put them up now, but then so we can turn them on by December 1st, and then they take them down sometime near the end of January.
But they're recycling the lights, so,
Well, yeah, they're just no longer again.
right, so that's good.
Yeah, that's, I was gonna say, that's less than they quoted me for my front yard.
Yeah, what's the name of this company?
What's the name of the company, Elise?
I have to look it
The
up.
lighting people.
The lighting people that
The
the
bad.
Park District uses.
Do you want me to send you the name?
Yes.
Yes, please, if you would.
Okay,
Yes.
sure.
I'm not getting up on the ladder.
Yeah, seriously, that's less than I was quoted by some folks for my 3 trees, my 3 trees in my front yard.
Seriously?
Seriously,
Lisa's got.
Wait, say that again?
Yeah.
seriously.
What did you say?
Oh, I said, that's less than, I was quoted, not by these people, but that's less than I was quoted for the 3 trees in my front yard, which I live across the cul-de-sac from Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, straight across, and I was quoted like
It's
$3,000.
insanely
Just for
expensive.
the 3 trees.
Oh, my.
It's a business we should all consider doing.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Maybe Kevin will do yours for you this year,
Right.
right after he finishes up his own.
That's right. Well, then, you'll see them in 4th of July.
So, I guess if there are no objections, we'll move forward with it, and they'll probably go up just after Thanksgiving, or maybe go up earlier, and then we'll start lighting after Thanksgiving.
There's a rule about not lighting holiday lights until after Thanksgiving.
Right.
Well, I would say I would say after Thanksgiving, especially after Halloween. I saw some stuff up before Halloween even. Okay, and that's the end of my report, so thanks, guys.
The mix is gonna start playing Christmas music next week.
Laura's been playing
Oh,
Christmas movies for months.
yeah, that's true.
Questions for Trustee Perkins? Thank you. 11G, Public Safety Trustee Scheller.
Thank you very much, President Richardson. If Lieutenant Kirk would come forward, and while he's doing that, remember that we had a little bit of a situation with the 911 calling center, and I just noted Michael Danforth in his report from the county board said the board approved at its October 12th meeting to enter into a contract to provide design services for a proposed consolidated emergency operations or a 911 and emergency telephone system board facility. So it's good that coordinating some of that. I know we met with the Wakanda Fire Department. They use Lake Zurich and 911, so to consolidate it all in the county is obviously a benefit. That said, Lieutenant Kirk, welcome. Bring us up to date on what's happening in the county. I know Ruse burglaries is still taking place, and what else?
Sure, yeah, we've had issues across the whole county with roof burglaries here and there. Not any particular area to note, but just pretty much everywhere. As far as Lake Barrington is concerned, we will be probably switching personnel around. The day shift deputy, Deputy Legenza, will be resigning or retiring at the end of the month. And then the afternoon deputy that we just put in not too long ago, he's going to be moving to day shift and have a different assignment. So there'll be 2 new deputies assigned to this contract. So when they do arrive at the contract, we will have them come and introduce themselves here at the Village Hall.
Wonderful.
But that's pretty much it. I know you spoke about the consolidation. The biggest advantage with that is going to be speed. Because if right now, if you get a call and it's not your call, it's got to be transferred to another center, and it just slows down the process where, sometimes seconds count. So,
And that would be universal for the county as well as most of the agencies within the county?
not universal, but there are a majority of the county is participating. Not everybody, we're not sure exactly to what level everybody's participating, but we'll see what happens in the future here.
Very good. Thank you.
Are there questions for Lieutenant? I just wanted to thank you. I was stopping to buy gas at Speedway a couple of Fridays ago, and one of your folks were there. There had been a truck that was stolen, and there was no license plate, and it stopped for gas. And one of your guys was following and noticed there was no license plate, so stopped, and I guess you had other folks chasing the guy because he took off, and then the deputy who was still there was watching the abandoned vehicle and making arrangements for it. And it's just very reassuring to know that you guys are on the spot like that. It was just great. He couldn't have been more polite to me. And I told him that I was in village government. He was just, they were on it, and it makes me feel safe to know that those guys are very attentive. So thank you for that.
Well, that's great to hear. And I know that, your contract, you share one resource with North Barrington, but really, when you contract with the Lake County Sheriff's Office, you get a whole lot more.
That's right.
At the drop of a pin, we could have, 10 cars, detectives,
Right.
Tactical response, accident investigation.
Crime lab,
Yeah.
K9.
Pretty much anything you see on TV, we could have that here. Well, we don't have helicopters and all that, so I know that some of those shows get pretty extravagant, but we have a lot of resources at hand, and obviously all those are available to the village of Lake Barrington when needed.
Yeah, no, thank you. Are there questions for Lieutenant Kirk? Thank you for being with us, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Just to point out, like in the month of September, there were 45 additional calls to Lake Barrington Shores that the Sheriff's Department did, and there were 37 to Lake Barrington Woods. On ambulance calls down to Lake Barrington Woods, but that's over and above basic patrol and all this kind of stuff that both Karen and I get these reports, and I think it's interesting to note that, the amount of service that we're getting above and beyond just normal patrol, that there's a lot of special activity that the Sheriff's Department is responding to that keeps us safe. Much appreciated.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Lieutenant.
The Wakanda Fire Department, Administrator Dalton Lang and I met with Chief Gary, Fire Prevention, Mike Duvall, and Assistant Chief Chaz Bushik last week. The Wakanda Fire Department covers 48 square miles in 9 municipalities. They do fire prevention, and we're very appreciative and complimentary to the village of Lake Barrington. It's one of the best, easiest communities that they have among their 9 to work with. And that's a credit to our administrator as well as Lisa and our permit, Julie, that they have great cooperation, and that's definitely good to hear that among their municipalities that they're very favorable and very cooperative and very complimentary. So our gratitude to the office for making that all happen. And as I said, they were one of the ones about central dispatch, because right now their 911 was out of Lake Zurich, whereas the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District is out of Northwest Central Dispatch. And just as Lieutenant Craig said, sometimes the communication between the two rather than going one. Now, the Lake Zurich dispatch has got to call Central Dispatch, and sometimes the numbering system is a problem. And as a result, the incident that was recently experienced at Lake Barrington Shores has had a positive impact, because now they are doing some additional numbering. There were no numbers. If you were in the forest preserve, let's say Lake Barrington Shores, there was no indication where in the forest preserve you would need for assistance. You're going to start trying to do like mile marker that they do on the roads. Let's say I was near marker number 10 in the forest preserve. That's where I need my 911. Same way with the golf course, that you're out on hole number 11, where I have no idea where hole number 11 is. They're going to start trying to put some signs in that that's near the 200 block of Oak Hill or something like that. So it's that incident has helped create some awareness as to what is going on. Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District, they're working on station number 3. And one across from Good Shepherd down on Highway on Barrington Road. And due to talking about getting permits, they had some problem getting all their permits from Cook County. So they had hoped to have it completed by the end of the year. It looks like it'll be sometime in January, but if you've driven by there, you'll see they're doing quite a bit of work to finish off station number 3. And they're talking about tax levy, but they're not talking about a 0% increase. They're talking about going for the maximum tax levy increase that they can. And there is a blood drive down at the Barrington Countryside on November 20th. So if they're much in need of donating blood, so if you can sign up for it, it'll be that Saturday morning from, I believe, 8 until 3 in the Meadow Court.
Questions for trustee?
November 20th.
November 20th.
Yeah.
Since the treasurer gave such a fabulous financial report, I kind of like the lieutenant's idea. Maybe we should get a village chopper. We can land it on the ball field out here. No? Oh, well.
You could take
I tried, Jim, I tried. You asked for it, I tried. Okay. 11H, Veterans Affairs and Special Events, Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. A little drum roll. We have now moved e-news from 304 to 310 subscribers. Approaching our goal of 325. And just really super happy that we now have a LinkedIn presence, because I'm sure that will enable us to grow that number with a bit more haste than we had in the past. Special events, the village road signs promoting our restaurants. I've gone through and replaced as many as I could. I modeled replacements. And if we want to continue the program, I'll need an approval to build more signs.
You talking about the little ones or?
Yes, the small ones.
Okay, so we're all allowed those in the garage.
Yes.
We had some big ones left. But the small ones were out.
We have big ones left?
I think so.
Okay, well, I'll check with you tomorrow on the big one. But we do need more, because I've used all the backup small signs that I had.
Let me check to see if we have them on the garage.
Okay, great, thank you. An update on my work to have Cole come out of the Chicago Bears charity event in Lake Barrington. I'm still working on this, back in some of my previous work, I dealt with sports agents from time to time, and this is going to take us a while, let me tell you. But I'm still working on it, and at least the person at the Chicago Bears with whom I'm working has continued to be positive about possibly doing this, so that's a good point. Let's see, Veterans Affairs, the veterans provided barn-stop parking assistance and had a good time doing that. We had all kinds of people coming in. Veterans invite all village staff and officials to attend their November 11th Veterans Day ceremony, which begins at 11 a.m. at the Lodge at the Shores. FYI, Village President Kevin Richardson will be offering some Veterans Day remarks. And the keynote speaker will be Denise and David Bradstreet, who are local Tongue to Towers representatives. They'll be talking about the program. And of course, the veterans will be serving their famous cake and coffee. Veterans are collecting toys for tots, new toys. If you would like to donate, please bring your toys to Village Hall in November, and I will pick them up and bring them over to LPS.
Are they going to be dropping off a box for us then?
We're trying to find a box.
There's one in our office if you want to, there's one in our office too.
Pardon me?
There's one in the Remax office, a place
Good,
for contacts.
good.
Should they be wrapped?
No. Unwrapped. I'm sorry, unwrapped toys, new toys. That's my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. The LPS Veterans Program is on Thursday, the 11th.
Yes.
For interested people, at 11 a.m.
11 a.m., yes.
Is there a separate program on Saturday, the 13th?
No, there's not.
Okay, I double entered it. so-
No, well, we originally had considered that, but decided not to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There being no questions for Trustee Thompson? Under agenda item 12, old business, there is none. 13, no ordinances. 14, resolutions, there are none. 15, no new business. 16, this is the second opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board. I see no one seeking recognition. There is no need for a closed session. Chair would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Burke, seconded by Scheller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.